In Rome, a cardinal taking part on the Synod on Youth says he expects the final document to make reference to LGBT Catholics.
I should say my hunch is that it will be there. In what form and how it will be approached, I don't know. But I'm confident that it would be part of the document.
Cardinal Luis Tagle is the Archbishop of Manila. The Synod Fathers met today to discuss the first draft of the final document. Once they vote on it, it will be given to the Holy Father for consideration. Cardinal Wilfrid Napier is Archbishop of Durban, South Africa. He's taking part in the Synod. Your Eminence, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me on your show.
The bishops received the final document today, and I understand you're studying it. We've been reporting that many youth were concerned about the issue of same-sex attraction and whether or not it would be addressed. Has it been?
It has been addressed in a very passing way, I would say. Simply mentioned that the sexual orientation and homosexuality are issues that have been discussed. But there's no great depth of study into it or any positions being taken on it.
Has the word LGBT been used?
Not as far as I've got in the document so far. And I think it's only wise that it doesn't get used because there are other groups of people who would need to be mentioned as well if you're making categories of people who have different positions or problems that need to be dealt with.
You've expressed concern that the final document may be too focused on issues of youth in Europe and the West. Are the voices, do you believe, of Africans being heard?
One of the great parts of the presentation this morning was the fact that the two special secretaries made the point of saying this document is for the whole church, but it can't go into detail for each and every part of the church, and therefore it will be up to the bishops' conferences or the regional bishops' conferences to actually supply the particular details of their area so that the document would have more relevance to their particular issues.
What are the issues that young people in your country, South Africa, are most concerned about? How do they differ from Europe and the West?
I think one of the main things where they differ would be certainly in the area of where they come from culturally, the traditional values, the family. In Europe we talk about the father, mother, and children as the family, and then we say the rest are extended family. In Africa, it would be a situation that the whole conglomeration is called the family. From grandparents down to the grandchildren is referred to as the family and not the extended family. That's one point that was made quite tellingly by one of the bishops from Africa. The other issues, of course, are unemployment, exploitation, the question of human trafficking, which is very, very serious one in parts of Africa. The third one, I think, would be how, because of the poverty, many multinational companies are using cheap labor, using young people, children even, in order to exploit minerals and so on at the least cost to themselves. These are some of the issues that have been mentioned.
You've been supportive of Pope Francis amid allegations that he knew about Theodore McCarrick's sexual misconduct. What's your advice to Catholics who are disturbed by the allegations?
Every time I see a big debate going on in the media, the social media in particular, I say to myself, well, thank God I believe in Jesus Christ. I don't believe in Pope Francis or Cardinal so-and-so. I believe in Jesus Christ. And once I'm living that out, my faith in Jesus Christ, I'm trying to live his gospel, trying to pass his gospel on to others, that for me is the essence of my faith. Look, if there are problems going on, I leave it to, just as I do in my own diocese, if there's somebody assigned to look after a particular area of ministry, I don't go worrying about that particular ministry all the time. I leave them to take responsibility. And here at the Vatican, if there are departments that are responsible for that, I'm leaving it for them to deal with it properly and not to be keeping on worrying about whether the Pope knew or the Pope didn't know. If that's been brought to their attention and they're dealing with it, I think that's what matters most.
Cardinal Wilfrid Napier, Archbishop of Durban, South Africa, thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me to explain something of the African background and the African view of how the Synod has gone.